Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the April Advocacy Action Network meeting. It's good to see you. This afternoon, we are going to share some policy updates, most specifically around some data that we've seen roll out from OSPI as a result of some of the funding reductions made during the last legislative session. And then we'll spend the remainder of our time focused on a new-ish resource that we want to make sure is on the top of your minds as we head into the interim. And then we'll spend some just time in small groups. We've got a pretty small group in here today, so maybe we want to stay with everyone to essentially talk through some strategy and what's working and what isn't for you all as we are a little bit over a month into the interim this year. And then, as we shared last month, we've been hard at work to build out a Advocacy Action Network calendar for the rest of 2026 so that you all have a sort of predictable schedule as to when we're going to be together. And also, we filled quite a few of our meetings already with guest speakers and topics so that you all can have that information in advance too. So we'll take a look at that, and I think we'll wrap just a little bit before 1 o'clock today. Where I'd love for us to start is with some of the goals that came out of our discussion last month. For those of you that were here, we essentially talked a lot about sort of what the interim is, what it isn't, how we can all and should all be spending our time. And then we also had some of the educational equity funding groups come and share about their progress. But one of the things that you all spoke about at the beginning is just some of the goals that you all had sort of set out for yourselves. Some of this is also like feedback from us about some things that we all should be doing this interim. So I'd love to just reflect on those that are on the screen in front of you, thinking through how you all are reflecting on the outcomes from last session, and then sort of sharing updates with your communities, how you all are staying connected with legislators, while also like taking a breath post a sprint of a 60-day session that landed us in some challenging outcomes. And then also how y'all are potentially starting the process for organizing and identifying where it is you'd like to see the legislature go in 2027. Part of that may or may not include for you submissions as a part of the WSSDA platform revision process. As you all hopefully know by now, that window is open for submissions during the month of April. So if you were hoping to submit a platform revision proposal for WSSDA positions this year, that window is still open until the end of this month, April 30th at 5 p.m. is when that closes. But I'm going to take my slides off the screen and essentially just would love to just ask the group how the beginning of interim is going for you. How have you been sort of processing the outcomes of the session? Have you all had a chance to share with your community, whether that's like formally through like a board meeting process? I know a couple of districts have done op-eds in some of the newspapers. How are things starting for all of you? Feel free to either just unmute and jump in or raise your hand. Or if you don't want to speak or you're not in a place to do that, you can also feel free to use the chat box. Curious to hear from maybe two or three of you.
Well, since nobody else is jumping in,
Thanks,
hate to leave
Tom.
you hanging there, Logan. Yeah, I've made some, I've continued to make legislative board reports after the session during our meetings. Uh, Pointed out that although our district was relatively not impacted by those cuts to LEA and um, uh, TBK, TTK, that those were cuts that uh, happened, that the funding continues. We didn't get the MSOC funding, that we didn't keep up. We're not keeping up with the increasing costs, and that our advocacy will need to continue encouraging people to pay attention to the uh, legislative races, because we have um, an interesting one of our districts is the 32nd, which has a representative is now challenging the state senator. And then that opens her seat, which has drawn at least 5 candidates so far. So I'm trying to engage with some of them, because we don't know who will be representing that district next. And that could be, a good time to start building those relationships, even when they're only potential legislators, not when they're actually assumed their office.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate the update. Yeah, on that note, Cynthia and I and others have been talking about how with this interim, just given lots of retirements, folks potentially moving from the House to the Senate, we are anticipating a number of new legislators potentially at the end of the election cycle this year. And so, what does that mean for all of us and all of you as we think about how we educate new legislators about the needs of students and the needs of districts and the needs of the education system beyond, just those 1, 2, or 3 talking points or big issues that we might carry into the next session. How is it that we're educating our new legislators about sort of the broader context of the needs of K-12? Those are questions that we're starting to ask ourselves. Good points. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I can. So this is the time of year when, as we get close to May 15th, where districts have to consider the, reductions in force requirements. And so we were unfortunately talking about ours this year, and there's going to have to be another 10 or so FTE, on the reduction in force, which we've already seen the reductions. Our class sizes are going up, and our students are letting us know about that for sure, because it's not good for students at all. And then also we're having to make tough decisions like cutting back on library services. Another one that's not good at all for students. So, the impacts of these things are hitting students pretty hard, and they're letting us know about it.
Dave, can I ask real quick where you're from?
Tukwila.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Those are really unfortunate decisions that you are very likely not alone in having to make, and it's really important that we're surfacing those decisions and that student feedback, not only for ourselves as a collective, but also for our legislators, right? To really make sure that we are then being the voices for our districts and our students to say, look, here's some of the outcomes of some of the stuff that you're doing. So thank you for sharing. Anyone else have anything they want to share about how interim's starting for them?
Well, again, for us here at Mount Adams, for this year, or for the start of the next school year, we're gonna let three teachers go. We're not gonna renew their contracts, is what we're doing. Same thing, because the funding and stuff. It's hitting the smaller schools pretty hard, because we don't have, especially for us on the reservation, we don't have anybody to back us up or find any other funding. Our impact aid money is not increasing at all. It's becoming pretty hard. We have to watch our pennies now. We're watching really close what we're doing. We probably fund a lot of stuff, like extracurricular activities. We have 85% of our kids do that. we don't want to let that go because that's what keeps them in school. It's just, I don't know. It's a scary time right now because the state funding is down and our federal funding is down. So we have to watch our pennies really, really tight. So that's all.
Thanks,
Yep.
Larry. And thank you, Tom and Dave, as well. One of the things that sort of everything that y'all have said makes me think about is, I know like Riff Day is not today, but as you all are getting towards more final decisions as to right what your budgets are going to look like for next year, I think it's very much worth reaching out to your legislators, just sending them a quick note, letting them know some of these things. For those of you that have been to your regional meetings, you've heard us talk about this. But some of the conversations I've been having over the last couple days is, about how consistency matters when it comes to how and when we're working with our legislators. Not just reaching out to them when we need something or when we need them to vote yes or vote no on this particular bill or get this thing in the budget, but also to share real life impacts of decisions, sharing what's going on at the district level, reaching out to them, especially not during session, as a way to help some of that proactive conversation. So anyway, as you all are continuing to navigate this, I'd encourage you to keep your legislators in the loop. Okay. I lost my slide deck, so give me 1 second to get it back. Okay, so something that you're going to see in many of our Advocacy Action Network meetings over the next couple months, just for as a reminder for me, but also for you, we have 265 days until the start of the next session. I'm going to keep that countdown going for us. What that means right now, we're really early. We have a lot of time to be talking with our legislators, to be bringing these impacts to them, to be processing, to be going back and forth, to see what kinds of solutions we could and should be trying to advance during the next session. What we want to thread for you from last month until this month. So for those of you that were here in March, we had representatives from the UW SUPS group and the OSPI funding equity work group come and talk about some of their updates. Those groups are continuing to meet at some point in the slides today. I forget where. I'll share a couple updates on sort of next steps for both of those spaces. And then what we really want to share with you today, I won't go into a ton of detail, but what I want to let you know is that as a result of the funding reductions from last session, we know and continue to know that our basic ed system remains underfunded. There are significant gaps in many areas, and our formulas are not driving dollars out to districts in a way that is equitable and student need based. And we also know that last session we did not make any sort of offensive progress towards basic education funding, and that most sort of majorly the legislature reduced LEA local effort assistance funding, transition to kindergarten funding, and school bus depreciation schedules. And that there are some new maps that have come out from OSPI that I just want to flash in front of you really quick here that essentially show where those reductions are going to take place. So what you're looking at in front of you right now is a map of all the school districts in Washington State, and essentially the darker color of red, the more significant reduction that those districts are going to see when it comes specifically to LEA reductions. What OSPI says is that of the districts that have experienced that reduction, the average is estimated to be just under $200,000. Overall statewide, that's about a $26 million hit in levy equalization for school districts. Similar map, but it's different. This is a map about transition to kindergarten. We saw about a $25 million cut, as you all know, to that program. OSPI is sharing that their average reduction is estimated to be about 350,000. There are some districts across the state that have experienced significantly larger reductions. I heard someone at a regional meeting last night, and I don't remember their district, but they were suggesting that their transition to kindergarten program could be reduced by about 60%. So reductions are hitting out there. Lastly, this map stacks the previous two together. So this shows local effort assistance and transition to kindergarten reductions stacked on top of each other for an overall reduction of just over $52 million.
Logan,
Statewide.
I have a quick question. Can you just
Yeah,
send those out to us maybe
of course.
where we can look up those maps?
Happy to send these out, Denise.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. I would also just share that your superintendents received these about a week or so ago. On the superintendent does a monthly webinar for district soups across the state, and that's where these are from. So your soups should have them as well, but I'm happy to share them out.
Thank you.
What I think is most important for you all to know, just sort of as a next step here, one is that these maps are out there. And two is that by the end of the month, OSPI is anticipating being able to share more specifics with each district that will see reductions. So things are starting to come out. What I also want to share with you all is that the cuts and reductions to K-12 have shown a pretty strong presence in media outlets across the state. This is not every single article that's come out because I know I couldn't fit them on 1, 2, or maybe even 3 slides. This is just a handful of some of the articles that I've had and sort of found and filed away so that we could put them on the screen here for you today. What I want you to know is that pretty much every media outlet across the state is covering impacts to K-12 reductions right now. We're seeing them everywhere. Some of those reports are opinion pieces like op-eds. For example, that one right up on the top, Washington lawmakers will claim wins, but education funding isn't one of them. That's an op-ed by WASA, the Superintendent's Association Executive Director, Jeff Snell. Others in here are essentially just like, your typical news article that comes from a reporter, from interviewing folks at the district level, at the state level. Others are opinion pieces from school districts themselves. And again, this is not all of them. This is just a couple that I was able to pull together to share with you today. What I think is important for you all to think about is, again, one of the questions we asked at the beginning is how are you all sharing about some of these updates and impacts with your communities? That doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of a board report in a board meeting. Maybe you want to work with your superintendent and try to get an op-ed into your local media outlet. Maybe you're reaching back to your legislators and making sure that you're communicating with them. Maybe you're talking with parents and families out and about in community. Just really important to be sharing about some of the decisions that have been made this last session, how they're impacting you, and most importantly, that you all are going to have to make decisions as a result of these sort of impacts, that these ones right here are out of your control. So the decisions that you all are going to have to make specifically around your budgets for next year are based off of decisions that were not made by you all. Just important to be talking about. On the OSPI K-12 funding work group, wanted to let you know that that group has essentially reconvened post-session. for what they're calling phase 2. Some of you are likely on the larger 100 plus person work group that met prior to the 2026 legislative session. That group met last year. Their report is linked here on the slide if any of you want to take a look at that. For phase 2, that big group will still meet, but in between the large group meetings, they've also identified a smaller, what they're calling a technical advisory committee that will meet essentially more frequently. It's a smaller group. I think it's probably sitting somewhere in the ballpark of 40-ish individuals. That group had its first meeting last Friday. We talked a lot about MSOC in that particular space. So just want to let you know that that group is continuing to meet and talk. I don't have a good sense yet of sort of the direction that group will go, but I will keep you all informed as we have these meetings every month. From the school director perspective, Dr. Melissa Beard, WSSDA's president, and Nikki Lockwood, WSSDA's president-elect, so Tumwater and Spokane board members are sitting on this technical advisory committee alongside myself and school business officer extraordinaire Daniel Lunghofer from our team. He serves as our accounting analyst. Many of you have met with him or heard from him before. He has many decades in the school business world, and I think will bring a lot to this group. So wanted to share that update with you. I don't have a slide, but what I will let you know also is the UW Soups group that we heard from when we were together last month will be holding their next convening in June. It'll be happening right after the big AWSP WASA summer conference. And I will be in that space to listen and learn. So happy to bring updates back to you as to how that group is going to progress during our July check-in. Gonna pause and just ask if there's any questions from anyone. Ooh, I see Renee joined us, Lakeisha, Amanda, good to see you all. Thanks for being here. Any questions on any of those updates before we move along? Okay. So, what we wanted to let you know, I don't know why it says Tim Garshaw Wassa there. That's not supposed to be there. Wanted to let you know that there are a number of ways that you can be engaging right now beyond some of the goals that we talked about previously. If you're newer to this work and want some time to be able to learn alongside directors and alongside legislators, shameless self-plug would encourage you to attend your WSSDA regional meeting. Legislators are joining those meetings. In every regional meeting that we've had so far, we've had multiple legislators present, and they are there not only to listen and learn alongside our community engagement and advocacy-based programming, but they're also showing up for dinner and just sort of networking and hanging out with folks in the room. So would throw that out there as potentially another opportunity to run into your legislator. You can be inviting them to your events. We're coming up on graduation season. So consider where and how you are connecting with them. Sharing feedback and updates with your communities about the legislative session. We've talked about that quite a bit. By the next time we're together, Cynthia and I hope to have our story data bank assembled for you. We talked about that for the first time last month, but it's one of those new tools that we're hoping to put together that can essentially help you have some more specific talking points and data-based points that you can bring to your legislators. So we're hoping you all will contribute to that. More on that next month. And then also during the interim, Cynthia and I are going to be out and about for sure over the next 5 or 6 weeks, however many are left, during regional meeting season, but also into the summer and fall. And so if you all are interested at any point in getting together with Cynthia and I, maybe you'd like to have us come out to your district and see and hear some of these examples from your students or your staff. Maybe you want to sit down with us for a cup of coffee or a lunch. Please know that we are more than willing and interested in spending time with you where you are. And you can just send us an email and let us know that you're interested, and we can let you know when it is we might be planning to be out in your neck of the woods between now and the end of the year. But we do hope to be in quite a few spaces. Again, one of the things you've heard from us is that we really hope to essentially open our arms to a larger group of WSSDA members to be engaging in this work. You all showing up to Advocacy Action Network every month is a perfect example of some ways you can do that. And if you want to hang out with us in person, just let us know. I'm not going to pull up this webpage, but I do want to let you know that there's a really cool website out there. You can peruse it on your own. I'm not going to pull it up today because the person who helped to create it will be with us next month to talk through it. But if y'all are curious about a really great clickable interactive tool that as simply as it possibly can be described, essentially the funding issue with K-12 in a resource, would encourage you to check out waschoolfunding.org. This is a web page that's been made in partnership from folks at WASA, the School Administrators Association, and ESD 112's Monique Degas. She's the executive director of communications down there. And Monique is going to come talk with us next week about communications and engagement. And so I'm sure she'll want to go through this webpage in a little bit more detail. This isn't a brand new resource. Hopefully, many of you have seen this before. But what I did want to let you know that it's out there in case you haven't seen this. And it has very recently been updated to include just sort of a fresher data in terms of the numbers that are in there. So would encourage you to check it out on your own. It's a really great resource to share in particular with any new board members that might be coming in. Maybe you're a newer board member yourself. This is a great tool. I also believe this is a really helpful one to share with new legislators, with community members. Great resource. We'll talk more about it soon, but wanted to let you know it's there. And now we are going to go into some small groups. I think you all will be in groups of 3 this month. And what we essentially would love to have you all talk about is in terms of policy issues, in terms of funding issues, where might your district want to go for 2027? What's on top for you right now? I feel like a lot of us do best when we get to be in smaller settings with each other. So would encourage some networking around what's on top for you and your board. How are you all engaging with your fellow board directors, your district teams, and or your communities to share updates? And when it comes to the previous strategy list of interim opportunities, what's missing and what else has or hasn't worked for you? Gigi, you've got to head out. Thanks for being here. So we are going to go into some small groups for the next 10 minutes or so. Would love to have you all chat about that, and we'll come back and hear any updates that you might share with the group. Just give me 1 second, and you should have a breakout room popped up right in front of you to click on. Okay, there you are. We'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. Drop the questions in the chat. And we'd love to hear from each group. Just if there's one or two things that you feel like is worth sharing with the full group from your time together. So maybe let's go first to room one. Room one had Amanda, Dave, Larry, and Tom in it. Does anyone want to share some highlights from that space?
We talked about funding, both state and federal level. Uh, what else did we talk about, guys?
We talked about how useful it can be to have citizens groups who can help educate the public about the funding issues. So it's, a lot of us have like groups, citizens groups that come together for a levy or for a bond or something, but Amanda was pointing out how helpful it could be if those people were also working in this period of time to help the community understand the issues, and it wasn't just coming from the board.
It's great.
Yeah. And there was the idea that helping the community folks educate, providing them some materials like some of the infographic stuff that we always talk about. And WASDA, you guys have some of that stuff, so maybe packaging some of that stuff up that could be given to the community groups to help them, because a lot of that stuff it's hard for somebody that's coming in to know all that stuff, and then to be able to come up with the infographics to communicate it well to the community. So it seems like that there's an opportunity there for us to kind of take some of the stuff that WASDA has done and then feed it to our community education groups.
That's great. Thank you so much, group one. That's a great idea. Group two had Denise, TJ, Trish, and Cynthia.
We were discussing how we wish education would be more of a priority to our legislatures. And how, like, in my district, discussing this with my superintendent, she was saying that we could actually be okay with our fund balance and the low enrollment and even these cuts if we didn't have so many mandates about how we spend our funding. If we had more freedom of, moving money from fund to fund or spending this on something else, but because of all the state mandates, we don't have any choice and it's disproportionate. So without all the categorical funding and mandates telling us what we have to do with our funding, we would have a better budget and a better functioning budget.
Thanks, Trish. That's helpful. Anyone else from group two? Okay. Group three, I didn't get to write everyone's name down, but it had Nancy and Renee in it. I know that much.
Minnie was the third person, and it was a really nice time. I was just so disappointed when we had to come back. It was a good talk with Renee and Pomini. My concern was something that is currently happening in our school district, and they both had experience with it, which was really valuable to me to hear. And I didn't want it to end. I needed to hear more. But Bomini, you have stuff to share too, because you're talking about more than just that.
I think we talked about what I said was at Canvas, we have a legislative advocacy committee that is pretty strong and functioning. And they're the ones who are working on like sort of the next quote like sort of an elevator pitch and moving forward from this session and focusing on what we need to work on for the next one and what we're going to address and what's going to be our priority, especially coming from our district. And the theme on just sort of, I liked how, WASA alone did with like the whole working together rather than each individual asking for what they want this time around, because we needed to be united, because it was important that we could all survive instead of just a few survive. So I think we were kind of going off of that and just trying to figure out what's going to be the next theme or priority going forward for legislative session.
Can I ask a quick follow-up on that? Who, not like specific names, but like who sits on that district advocacy committee? Is that like board members, staff, community, students, maybe a mix?
Yeah, so we have a few committees, and all of those committees do have a member or two that we kind of, in the beginning of the year, we say, okay, I want to be on this committee and you can be on this committee. So we kind of divide it up so we're not all at the district office every day of our week. I am on that committee this time, along with another board member, and then the superintendent also sits on all of these ones. And then maybe one district director, whoever's available, they rotate that. And then as far as the rest of the committee, we do have two students that have been coming regularly. And then it's all just community members who have shown an interest when the application goes out. That's basically it. We have like some teachers that are on there, like a teacher director from the TTK program. She's often on there. They just serve like a year. I think it's 2 years. Like I know the Citizens Advisory Committee is 2 to 3 years. I think the legislative could possibly be 2. I don't know exactly. But it's all community members. And they're the ones who are the director. I mean, the president, vice president, sort of. And then we're there.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from room 3? Okay. We will move to room 4, which is everyone else. I got that Lakeisha was in that room, but I'm sure it was more than just you, Lakeisha. Who from that group would like to share something?
Well, I met the amazing Anna Marie from Everett and Megan from South Kitsap. And so I'm going to hand it off to Anna Marie.
Oh. I thought we had a good conversation. We're talking about during this interim time, meeting with our legislators. Seems like most of us kind of know who our legislators are, and we know them, they know us, and just kind of trying to continue the conversation about the importance of education for our students, and maybe how that's going to look, and then kind of incorporating if we have programs at school, or maybe there's a school board meeting with students that come and speak about certain issues, inviting our legislators to those meetings so that they can hear from the kids. And then again, I think it's good to tell those stories about how the outcomes, not having enough funding, how that directly affects districts and kids in general, and what that means to them and the community. And of course, it's great to hear it from the students, because that's what it's affecting, right? So anyway, do you all want to add more, Lakeisha or Megan?
Okay, good work. Good work. I hope that was helpful for all of you. Hopefully you learned something from your conversations, maybe met a new school board colleague, and got to hear some good stuff from the groups. I think you all had some really, really great ideas that we're going to take back and run with, and hopefully you'll do the same. We have 6 minutes left. We're going to get you out of here a little bit early today. But before we wrap, what I want to put on the screen, you don't need to you can take a picture, but we'll also email this out to you. This is the schedule for future Advocacy Action Network meetings. We're going to stick with our Tuesday at noon time frame. It's not necessarily always like the third Tuesday or the second Tuesday, because just with with calendars. We couldn't make that happen. But this is what we've got in front of us right now. We are doing our best to fill in topic and skill-based content each month, some of which is populated on the screen in front of you already. If there are gaps here that you feel like are missing, please let us know. If you have something you'd like to bring to the group, like a particular policy area you're working on, or maybe a particular update that you want to share with the group, please let us know. We're happy to build you all into these as well. In addition to having guest speakers over our next couple of months, we will always make sure we're holding time for sort of group discussion and debrief after each of our guests come in or come out. But wanted to put this in front of you so that you know we've got a plan. And then I also just wanted to ask, because I've heard from a couple of you that calendar invites might be helpful for these meetings. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Would you like to start getting calendar invites from us? Okay, great. You all will get those once we finish up today. So with that, our next meeting will come back together on May 26th, right after the Memorial Day weekend. We'll go 90 minutes during that time. So what you saw throughout that calendar is that a couple of our meetings we extended by an extra 30 minutes with the goal to essentially build in some skill-based content for you instead of just bringing in a guest presenter. So next month is one of those. And so next month we will have folks from the State Board of Education join us to talk about their Future Ready initiative. They've been doing work for the last couple of years to be thinking about graduation requirements and sort of updates and some design changes. That work is going to come to a point where they're ready to share it out. And so the day after they sort of finalize the first draft of their plan, their staff is going to join us. So you all will be some of the first people to get to see their first draft of that plan. Alyssa Mueller, their policy director, will be with us. And then also Monique DeGaw from ESD 112 will come to share a little bit about the communications perspective and some skills that y'all might be able to take back from Monique. I'm sure she'll share about this, but Monique, as the director of communications for ESD 112, runs a statewide sort of consortium of folks that districts are able to join. They hold regular meetings, and it's essentially about how that network is supporting each other with communications efforts at school districts. So Monique will come chat a little bit about that and more. So we'll see you back here on May 26th at 12 o'clock. If you can't make it, don't worry, the meeting will be recorded and sent out to you.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you all so much for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you.